So let's look at how to solve this. I'm going to go ahead and clear, and I'm going to also turn on error on pause so that my game actually won't run or let me do anything when there's an error, so that I know to check the console in the future. Okay, so the issue here is that when we're working in the main menu and we click co-op or single player, our scripts are all the same for each scene and we want to keep it that way. However, we have no way to distinguish if we're in co-op mode versus single player mode. So looking at our co-op mode, just our co-op mode scene or our single player scene, how do we determine this? Where should we determine if we're in co-op mode or single player mode? You may think that we should handle that logic in the main menu and carry it over to whichever scene we were in, but that's actually more difficult than it needs to be. Instead, what we can actually do is we can have a script here called the Game Manager, which handles the state of the game. The Game Manager should know if you're co-op mode or single player mode. So what we can do in here is we can simply just add a variable to check, is this co-op mode? So for example, in my Game Manager here, I can go ahead and I can create a variable called public bool is co-op. So we'll say is co-op mode. And by default, it will be false. So we're going to assume the player is going to be in single player mode. So let's go ahead and save this. Now, heading back over to the inspector, you'll see here that we have some variables. Well, I'm in the co-op mode scene. So is co-op mode is going to be checked. If I save my scene and I head over to single player, if I look at the Game Manager, is co-op mode is false. So already, with just a simple variable and by checking it in the inspector, these scenes are now capable of differentiating itself. Now what we can do is inside the co-op mode here, we have our start method, which is getting called as soon as the scene is loaded and setting those two characters to position 0. We only want to do that if the Game Manager says this is single player mode. So we hop into our code here. We'll hop into the player, go to void start. And you'll see here we're saying take the current position and set it to start. We only want to do this if we're not in co-op mode. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just simply create some logic that says if co-op mode, do nothing. Or if not co-op mode. Okay, so let's go ahead and type if statement here. And we need access to our Game Manager, which we have through the underscore Game Manager. And we're looking for our new variable. So if Game Manager dot is co-op mode equals false, meaning that we're not in co-op mode, then let's go ahead and set the starting position to 0. Put this in there, save this. Let's head back to Unity. Open up your main menu. Let's go ahead and run this scene and let's test it out. You'll see here single player. And we may have broken single player here. No reference exception. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Let's see here. What did we break? Game over, player mode. Single player mode was working a moment ago. Let's see here. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. So this might be a tough one to solve, but it's actually really simple. You'll see here that the reason why we're getting a null reference is because we're accessing the Game Manager before we actually found it down here. So what we need to do is we need to actually just take this code, copy it, and let's go ahead and put it below where we actually found the Game Manager. So we can actually do this at the end here. So now that we've found the Game Manager up here, now we can actually make use of this underscore Game Manager dot. Before we were accessing the Game Manager before we found it. Let's go ahead and save this and let's test it out. So if we run the game, our single player should still work fine. And as you can see here, it does. And when we go into our co-op mode, you'll notice that our player blue and red should be in their respective positions. And just kidding, we have, oh no, this is actually good. If we look, they're in their respective positions, but the game is still in a broken state. In the next video, we're going to walk through fixing these bugs.